"What time is the first reader anyway?" I asked. I generally didn't like bars this crowded. Someone kept elbowing me in the back, but by the time I turned around, I couldn't tell to whom the offending elbow belonged. I felt like a dog chasing her tail. "Relax," Larissa slurred. "I didn't expect there to be this many people," I said. "I thought they'd all be at the bar with the travel writers." Larissa nodded in agreement. "I thought the hipsters would all be at blog writing over at the Irish pub." "I guess that's why we're not hipsters," I said. "We can't even guess what they're into." Every year, Larissa and I went to Litquake's Lit Crawl to lessen the hipster intimidation factor and, in her case, increase the chances of picking up a smart guy. We tried to pick the most unpopular events in each slot. So this year, we'd selected postmenopausal writers on the meaning of life for our appetizer. And now here I was with a welt on my back. This city never failed to surprise me. The crowd was actively quieting. People were shushing and pointing toward the makeshift stage. A woman of about 60 had clambered onto it. She had silver hair pinned up in a bun and was wearing a long velvet skirt that nearly brushed the floor. "I'm Sonora Watson," she said, her voice scratchy but warm, like vinyl. There was polite applause, a few scattered whoops. She lowered her head slightly to indicate her humility. Since I didn't know who she was, the gesture left me with the reverse impression of arrogance. "I must confess, I was surprised to be invited to this gathering tonight," she went on. "I'm embarrassed to say that I didn't even know young people were drunkenly stumbling through the streets once a year in the name of literature." Larissa and I laughed along with the crowd. There was something inviting about Sonora, a magnetism that we were all feeling. Well, we had all been drinking. It was the advantage of reading in a bar. You got a loose audience. "I don't know how strictly it adheres to tonight's topic," Sonora said, "but here is my inherently flawed, hopefully worthwhile attempt to approach the meaning of life." Sonora then read a first-person account of a 23-year marriage, with each year allotted one paragraph. Every word of every paragraph was perfectly tuned. There wasn't a wrong note. It was so powerful that I found myself wanting to believe it had been her own marriage, though I reconsidered when the husband died midway through the final year. That last paragraph contained the narrator's remembrance of her husband's wedding vow, when he swore that he'd never be afraid to let her change him, especially if it was for the better. The crowd froze for a few seconds after she had finished, as if she had asked for a moment of silence. Then we exploded into applause. She stood in the spotlight with what appeared to be tears in her eyes, repeating her earlier head bow. I tore through the festival program to see her bio. It began, "Sonora Watson is a retired psychotherapist living in Napa, California." "She's a therapist," I hissed. "Go to her," Larissa said passionately. She said it as if this was the penultimate scene of a romantic comedy, and I had to catch Sonora at the airport before she left me forever. The next speaker was taking the stage. As Sonora tried to move through the crowd, she was waylaid by audience member after audience member. I had never seen so many people simultaneously moved by a performance. "I want to talk to her, but what would I say?" I asked Larissa. I monitored Sonora's progress with one eye. "Well, what are you trying to get from her?" Larissa's question was surprisingly cogent for someone who just polished off her third drink in under an hour. "I want her to come out of retirement and help me." I didn't really mean that, except that I did. "Do you think that's realistic?" Now that question was the caliber I'd been expecting. "Of course I don't think it's realistic." "You keep thinking I need to find the restroom." She tottered away on her 3-inch heels. I wasn't even listening to the reader on stage. I was staring at Sonora. She was talking to 3 20-something women. We were all looking for the secret, it seemed. Suddenly, Larissa was back and grabbing at my arm. "We need to leave," she said, panicked. "Right now." "Why?" "Dustin's here, and he's with someone." She was on the verge of tears. "And she's really, really cute." "Did he see you?" "No, that's why we need to get out now. I can't talk to him. I'm a mess. I don't want him to know I'm a mess." Now the tears were streaming down her face. "Are you sure that he's really with her, that they're not just friends?" "She's hanging all over him, and I didn't even get to pee," she wailed. "Let's go then," I said resignedly. "We'll catch the end of travel writing, or at least use the bathroom." I took her arm, and we fought our way out the door. I cast a last, sad look back at Sonora, who was being accosted by yet another animated female. It was just as well. I still hadn't found anything to say. I tried to comfort Larissa as I led her to the next bar, and it seemed to be working. But when we were almost at the door, she shrank back in terror. "I can't go in there," she said, shaking her head frantically. "We don't have to stay. Let's just use the bathroom, and then we'll go home." I made my voice as dulcet as possible. "What if Kevin's in there with his wife? Or Sean with his fiancée? Or Philip with his wife? What if I just keep seeing them?" She leaned against the front of the laundromat next door. The elderly Asian woman inside looked out at us curiously, then resumed her folding. "Your exes won't be there, especially not Philip. I bet he's illiterate." Larissa started out laughing, but then she was crying. "I bet Dustin's engaged to that girl. I bet they were standing there listening to that story and thinking that would be them in 23 years. She wiped her eyes with the sleeve of her jacket, except for the cancer part. He was just on a date. You've had dates since you two broke up. What does that matter? I'm never getting married, Nora. I'm never going to have the meaning of life. She sank down to the ground, her back pressed against the glass. I sat down next to her. I could smell fabric softener. First of all, that's not true. But second of all, who says that's the meaning of life? It was a beautiful story, but if you actually think about it, it's kind of hokey. There's nothing hokey about loving someone with all your heart and having them love you the same way. And that's the thing, Nora. She welled up again. That's not how anyone has ever loved me. That's why they leave me. And then as soon as they do, they meet the love of their life. I'm everyone's good luck charm but mine. I didn't know what to say as she sobbed beside me. She was right. There was nothing hokey about a great love to span a lifetime. In Sonora's story, years 3, 7, 12, and obviously 23 had been painful. Some years had been boring, but put them all together and it was a life of great love. That was how it was done, the only way it could be done. The previously empty sidewalk was now jammed with people shuffling to their next literary event. I held Larissa as they streamed by. Thank you.